This week we are considering the leadership around high-performing teams. All of us are going to work on teams at various times in our jobs. High-performing teams, however, are a much more enjoyable experience and much more effective use of our time. Google has studied this extensively over hundreds of teams that have run in the last 5 years. And after crunching all the data, they came initially to no conclusions. They couldn't figure out why some teams performed particularly well and others were mediocre at best. However, after diving deeper into the data and looking at the information from a couple different perspectives, they came up with the teams that perform the best are ones in which they have been able to create psychologically safe environments for the team to operate. And we see that manifest itself in two ways. Roughly equal amount of time speaking is allotted to each member of the team. Now, not on every topic or not on every issue, but where people are experts, they're given the opportunity to weigh in. And then the team members have a high level of social intelligence, something we talked about in the very first week of class. That tended to be traits that were in common in all of their high-performing teams. So as you work to change the culture of the teams that you're a part of, the video this week on working with difficult people gets at some of the issues you may need to overcome to make people more socially aware, or create an environment in which the team behavior is such that you want. One of the things that people try to avoid is disagreement. And I think the article this week from Harvard Business Review on having a good fight illustrates that teams that don't fight are often apathetic. Social psychologist John Gottman, who did a lot of research in the area of marriage, noticed early on that couples that succeed are often couples that have learned how to fight with each other. The same is true on our teams. Not that you want to go into tomorrow's meeting looking to pick a fight with somebody, but rather teams that don't have the ability to disagree often fall into traps such as groupthink or just general overall apathy, whereas groups that learn how to disagree and disagree about the task and the approach, not about personal issues, tend to be able to work their way into the high-performing category. As we look at leading teams, you don't always get to hand-pick the group of people you work with. So the article on leading teams you inherit gives you some tips for how you assess, evaluate, and then improve the performance of teams that you did not build, but rather teams that you have taken over. With all this discussion on teams, we'd be remiss if we didn't consider the fact that sometimes we can over-team things in business and in school and church and sports teams and anywhere in life. We love doing things by group. We have committees on committees to decide how our committees will behave. But one of the things we recognize is that overload does occur. And in the work environment, high-performing team members often are tasked to be on teams simply because they're the smart kid in the class. And they end up doing lots of work and becoming ineffective at the things that they're actually really good at because they over-collaborate. So as a manager, you want to be aware of this tendency and look for it in your own organization. You also want to be aware of this list of 9 things. This was culled from a management consultant who, in discussing observing behavior with executives, discussing their behavior with their teams, came up with a list of things that executives are doing that undermine team performance. And what was most interesting is the executives were surprised that these activities had a negative impact. And we're even more surprised that they were doing it. So these are the things we want to take into mind as we consider high-performing teams and how to elevate the teams that we're a part of to the high-performing level.